you're joining us on the Dance Fit Hub group, welcome. We are actually through Zoom and have connected with Facebook so that you can get real-time information if you're watching right now. Those of you that will watch this on a replay, you'll see all of that just occurred. But that is technology for you. So this month, I decided, you know what, it's Women's History Month. And the theme this year is all about women's stories, right? And don't we all have a story? We all have some type of a story, right? We all came from somewhere. We all have done things in our life, and we've all made an impact on the world in some way or form, right? So I decided, I know a lot of people that are making big impacts on the world for women, for their situations and their struggles and things like that, because I always do my research on that. And I'm like, you know what, I don't have to find any fancy people because I know fancy people already. And so I thought of course, my friend Laura, who I see every week, because we are on a team of coaches who are, again, trying to make a difference in the lives of women just like you. And so everyone, welcome, my friends and my colleague, Laura. Now, I don't want to mess up your last name, but I would have said Carey Blackman. Is that true? Is that correct? All right. And she's from South Carolina. Yes.
Well, originally from New York, but I live in South Carolina now.
Okay. Well, like me, right? Then originally from New York, down Florida. Mm-hmm. I mean, eventually we'll all trickle down.
New York is love the
South. So Laura has been a holistic nutrition coach since 2021. Yes. Did I get that right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And she also teaches group fitness and has her own business helping women during their menopausal transition. So like me, she's helping me because I'm going through that. So welcome again, Laura. I'm so happy that you agreed to do this interview. You're technically my first interview in this group. So yay. Thank you so much. And for those of you that are on the Zoom call that you're joining us right now, we will have a Q&A towards the end. So if you have any questions, just jot them down so you don't forget them. If you're anything like me, you will forget what you had in your mind. And so jot them down and then we can ask towards the end if we haven't answered them already. So as I said, everybody has a story, and I am definitely, when I read a little bit of your story, I was like, I didn't know that about Laura. See, these are things that we find out about our friends. So can you share with everyone a little bit about your personal story and how this whole menopause thing came about?
Yes. It all started because really I wanted to lose weight. So everything starts with weight. And, I was looking at the physical aspect of weight. And here I was holding our first grandson, Sire, and I wasn't able. And I took this picture. I was so happy, because why wouldn't you be happy holding your grandchild, right? Then I saw the picture and I was like, it was bad. And I was like, oh, I have to do something. And I did. And that's how I was actually introduced to Zumba. So I started in May and doing my thing, going 2 to 3 times a week. I declared it my time. That was like the first time I actually put the family on the back burner because y'all were going to give me an hour to dance and whatever travel time I needed to get there and back. And it was great. It worked. And by August, I dropped 2 dress sizes and I was like, yay, able to fit those clothes again that you were holding on to. It was wonderful. And then, as time went on, I wasn't feeling great. So I dropped the weight, but I wasn't feeling great. And I'm like, I'm really tired of being sick. So that's when I started researching, as I was a school teacher then. So I was teaching in the middle schools.
Oh, God
And
bless
as I
you.
was teaching, and it was either Thanksgiving break or Christmas break. I think it was Christmas break because it was longer. But the thing is that I was in the bed sick again. And I'm like, why is it that I'm sick during the break? I'm supposed to be having a good time, being able to go here, there, and everywhere. And I'm like, tissues. So it was a mess. And I just happened to be watching PBS. And when I was watching PBS, they always have the great guests sharing information and their experiences. And I was like, they provided some information. I had my sister go to the library and go get some books. And I started doing some research. And once I, found out what that research was, I was like, oh, this actually works. I was able to detox and feel better. And then menopause came along. And there was a time that I had no idea I was actually in menopause, because as women, we go through these symptoms and it's like, oh, it's just another thing. But who knew that it was perimenopause? So no one talks about it. So you're just going through this thing thinking that it's just a thing, but it's actually me transitioning to menopause, which I'm still transitioning in, because it takes it could be from 7 months to 10 years before you actually get it.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that. It's something that we don't talk about, because I have a full family of women, right? Definitely all my aunts and my mom, all definitely over 50. And it's something that we really don't talk about. I think the most we ever spoke about was like hot flashes and things like that, which are the common symptoms. But like you're saying, there's so many other symptoms that are similar to flu-like symptoms, IBS, all of those things that we don't relate them to menopause. But as we're going to find out,
yes. Like that's part of it. And the thing is that since no one talked about it, I didn't know until I started actually doing research. So I'm like, now that I know, I'm just like, hey, I'm just telling everybody, because we actually need a platform, which is why I ended up creating my platform for women who are going through any stage of menopause, because we need resources.
Yes.
So now there's a place for resources.
Yes. So recently I saw a chart, because I was doing my own research, and it explains what happens to your body when you start menopause, and I was really surprised to see, like it said, like 25 to 30 years old or something like that. And then it went through like the different ages from there. And I know that some of the ladies in here are well into their 60s. So maybe they went through menopause, but some of them are still experiencing symptoms. So explain that a little bit, like the different stages, if you can.
So with the different stages, like what you were talking about, when, like you're in your 20s, early 30s, that's, reproductive years, but that's like the pre-menopause. So that's the stage. Everything is working great. Your hormones, they, are doing what they're supposed to do most times. And, when we get our cycle, they elevate more. But when it's elevated more, it's there in order to help us, be ready to, procreate. And, it's a great time. We're not complaining too much, because, we're just young and carefree doing our thing.
Yes.
Then we hit like around like mid 30s. And when we're like at the mid 30s, this is where the estrogen and progesterone start fluctuating. So it's like up and down. And this is where you might not know what's happening. Possibly you're going to get some weight gain, right? You might have hot flashes. You might have low libido, but I mean, at the same time, depending on what's going on in your life, you might not actually know that that's what's happening, especially like if you have low libido, but your partner just got on your nerves. Who knows? But there could be so many other factors.
Yes.
So then you have your early to late 40s. So during your early to late 40s, the estrogen and progesterone are continuing to now take this dip. You get a little more consistency with the dipping. So fluctuating in the, around 35, early 40s, mid 40s, it's just dipping. And then you get some of those same symptoms that I was just talking about, but you can also get irregular periods. So this is where you might hear women talking about how they're bleeding through their clothes, or they have to, change their either their tampons or their pads so many times throughout the day, or they could be in so much pain. The moodiness might be sky high. The irregular sleep patterns, so you have these sleep disturbances going on, and then they might find that the low libido could also be from vaginal dryness. So and you can have skin dryness. So there are so many factors that actually happen from this stage, like between maybe like the early to late 40s. Then we hit 50s on up. So when 50s on up, our hormones are completely unpredictable at this point, and they're super low. So this is where we actually get to see even more symptoms. At this point, our cycle may have stopped, and we're in post-menopause, and you still might be getting those, heavy periods. They may have even elongated, because some women talk about how they have them for weeks. It's crazy and they don't know what's actually happening. All they know is just like they feel like they need a blood transfusion because they're losing so much blood.
Yeah. And actually that for me, that's how it started to get bad for me, because I was having really heavy periods and it just wouldn't stop. And I felt like I was permanently on my period. And I'm like, I can't, and as a fitness instructor, I was like, I can't be this way. I can't, so I had to make changes to my, I had a Paragard at the time. Which is the the IUD. So I had to get that changed. And thankfully that has controlled it. But the symptoms, you still get symptoms. It's not like the symptoms go away. So yeah.
Yeah. And really, like when the doctors tell you about the birth controls, that's not really getting to your root problem.
Right.
It's not, it's just making you feel better for the moment. But like during this time, you get that, you might feel fatigued, your hair is thinning out, vaginal dryness has now maybe gone to like, where it's like atrophy and bone loss.
Yes.
So it's just like, those are the stages where we are, because, of course it could be other symptoms where if you have, other illnesses that you may be experiencing in conjunction with that. But if you don't, then, these are the things that you might come up with because of hormonal imbalances. Yes.
Which, of course, as women, we know all about hormonal imbalance. So let's get to it, because I'm sure everybody's like, yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. They're probably saying it, but nobody wants to admit it, but they're probably saying
you can admit it here, because the Dance Fit Hub is
that's right. It's your safe space. So if you're like me, you can say that in the comments. So I read recently that there's now evidence that certain foods can help relieve some symptoms of menopause, such as the most popular hot flashes, right? Poor sleep, low bone density, as you mentioned. So let's talk about the foods.
Okay. Well, I want to say first that you are so right that The research is correct, because the thing is that, and I'm so glad about too, is that they're finally revealing how food is your medicine.
Mhm.
And not to say to stop taking your medicine, because if you would prescribe it and you're taking it,
It's for a reason.
definitely do that. But you can actually start to incorporate a more holistic approach so that you can actually wean off the medicine, because if you can prevent taking pills every day, that's something that you want to do. So, the foods definitely help you relieve symptoms and, eventually get rid of it. So let's talk about the hot flashes. So we know hot flashes are super uncomfortable. Anytime is a wrong time for them to appear. And no matter what we're doing, it's disruptive. But what it's also saying is that our body is saying that I'm hot. I'm hot and I need to cool us off. So let's
And
do
not
that.
in a good way, and not in a good way that you're hot.
Right. It's not the hot where I'm sexy. It's the hot like I can't believe this is happening. So we want to make sure that the body is always doing something that's designed to save us, no matter what. Even the belly fat is designed, it's a protective mechanism.
Mhm.
So when the body says I'm hot and it has to cool us off, what's it going to do? It's going to give us the sweats, whether it's during the day where we have the hot flashes or at night where it's the night sweats. And these are our signals that's going to warn us, to let us know that we need to actually start making some changes in order to regulate our body temperature. So when we say, okay, well, what could I do right now? One of the things that you can do is you can avoid caffeine. So if you like coffee, if you like the tea, you can try decaf. Try the decaf. If you like chocolate, you can try maybe some cocoa nibs instead. But the processed chocolate that we all know and grown to love, that's one of it has caffeine in it.
Ah.
You could avoid wine, the red wine, like aged cheeses.
Yes. And we were just having a conversation about that.
Fried foods, spicy foods. I know I was talking about a lot of things to avoid. Let's talk about things that you can eat. So
you're making me get really sad that we're gonna have to
right. So let's find out. And because those things, are recommended to avoid, there are some things that we can do. We can have like different types of protein. So if you eat seafood, wild caught seafood is the best.
Mhm.
That could help with that because it's full of protein. You have nuts, you have lentils, you can have beans, healthy fats. Healthy fats fight hot flashes. So you like olive oil, try the olive oil. Salmon, so it's an oily fish.
Mhm.
Avocados, you can try those too. And veggies, veggies are our friend. So having veggies with every meal, that is a great way in order to also help, because it helps reduce blood sugar spikes. And when we want to make sure that when we don't have as many blood sugar spikes, it minimizes the insulin resistance, which we want, because that's connected to putting on pounds, among other things. And it increases the insulin sensitivity, which is what we do want, because it leaves us open into having a better metabolism. So when we have those veggies, you can try veggies like parsley, fennel, especially, depending on the dishes that you're making, celery. I know celery was a hot thing because everybody was on the celery juice kick. Onions. If you okay with the cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower and cabbage, you can have those. Collard greens, kale, and watercress are some of the things that you can have.
Yes.
So
So
that'll
those,
definitely help with the hot
I
flashes.
think what happens is that a lot of people, and I was having this conversation with someone the other day, if you were not brought up eating vegetables as an adult, it makes it difficult for you to start eating vegetables because you've never tasted the vegetable, A, or B, you tasted it in a way maybe when you were younger that you didn't like, right? So as you get older, it's a little hard. Like people are like, oh, I don't like vegetables, right? But there's so many ways that you can actually eat get the intake of the vegetables without actually, eating the vegetables. So for example, like kale, right? People are so into using their ninjas and their NutriBullets and all these things that they have. Just simply putting a bunch of spinach or kale into your drink makes a world of difference. Plus, there's supplements that you can there's powdered supplements, which I mean, they're not 100% great, but at least it's better than not having anything.
Right, it's a start for sure.
Right, exactly.
So those are definitely just great ways in order to actually make sure that you get your veggies in. But by having the protein, having the healthy fat, and having the veggies, it's going to help try to restore that hormonal balance that your body needs.
Yes. And ladies, I know a lot of you are wine drinkers. I am a wine drinker and there's no shame in that. It's okay. But I have to tell you that this week I did, I tried to be a little more mindful because I knew what we were going to be talking about this week. And I did notice that on one of the evenings that I had red wine, I was up all night and I felt so sweaty compared to all the other nights. And I haven't felt like that in a while. Because I did actually switch to white wine. And I was like, huh, they're actually right. When you have that moment that you're like, yeah. And I had, of course, you can't have wine without cheese, right? So I had cheese that night. So my stomach was a mess. I'm like, there is some truth to it. So I guess it's okay, if you do it every now and then, but just know, what the symptoms are going to be. So be prepared for something like that, so that, or start writing it down, even just to be like me.
To track it.
Yeah, I was being mindful about it. And so I paid attention to it. But how many times are we mindful about these symptoms? Probably not as much as we should be. So, so you're a group fitness instructor. Now do you teach just Zumba or you teach other things?
No.
Things, right?
I teach Zumba because I love Zumba, but I also teach strength training.
Yes, and she probably does that because the same reason I do that, because it's not just one thing. It's not, and I'm going to sound like a broken record because I say this in the group all the time. You can't just do one thing. You can't just exercise to lose weight, right? That's just part of the equation. You can't just eat right. That's part of the equation. You still need to do strength training. And I know that is something, I don't know about your ladies in your group, but my ladies in this group, I know a lot of them do not like to do strength training because it's so hard, right? You actually have to work. You have to do stuff. And believe me, for me too, this past year, I've increased my strength training, lifting weights and doing all those things, uncomfortable things for me, because as a fitness instructor, I never like to do that, but I have noticed change. And like you mentioned before, with these menopausal symptoms, bone loss, right? And your muscles also, right? Just simply lifting something up, you start to notice that your muscles are getting weak. So yeah, so I'm glad that you're doing that.
Yeah,
But
I'm glad that you said that too, because the physical activity is something that you have that's consistent. So the fact that you have the Dance Fit Hub, it's a gold mine because it's actually going to help with your menopausal symptoms by the fact that you are having this good time with the dance classes and the strength training classes, because I know the program that you actually have really focuses on that. And that's one of the main things that actually helps with bone density.
yep.
And just trying to maintain it so you don't have this rapid loss. It is so important. So the fact that you did it, I wasn't even going to talk that much about it because I was going to let you do the talking, Catherine. So,
Well,
it
I
is
know
so it's
I was
so
going to
crucial.
ask you, I was going to say to you, well, are there certain exercises that we should be doing that will help with the menopause? But you answered that one. But
Yes, if you have taken any of Catherine's strength training classes, then keep doing it, because that is definitely one of the things that you have to do. And even the dancing, because dancing is weight bearing,
yes.
that's key too. So the resistance training, it's right here. You have that.
Yes, yes. And they know all about my classes, I'm sure. But yes, the program that you mentioned is the Shape Up. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, it's 3 weeks of basically introducing you to every single part of your body. So at the end of the 3 weeks, you've completed that full equation that we were just talking about. It's not just eating right, not just adding cardio, not just lifting weights. It's a total body introduction, I want to say, to lead you to living a healthier lifestyle. And I always say, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian, but I do my research on things like this, on foods, because I like to eat. That's another thing. But but in my research, I would say within the last year, I did realize that the foods that we eat, you are what you eat. So the foods that we eat definitely do make a difference in your life. I know for my family, in the past, I want to say probably 2 to 3 years, we stopped eating processed foods. So I used to always get like those containers of turkey, like lunch meat things, and cheese, the cheese singles and all that stuff. And I noticed that once I cut it out, everybody's stomachs were so much better. So I never realized that. I also realized they used to get congested a lot more when they had dairy. So we switched to almond milk. We have oat milk. We hardly drink like just regular 2% or whatever milk. We don't do that anymore. And everybody's stomachs have been much better. So I am not saying that you have to change your diet completely, and I'm sure that's not what Laura's saying either, but just making little changes, little substitutions, and then kind of paying attention to how your body reacts. You'll be like me, you'll be blown away and be like, wow, like that's actually true. Because we want to
amazing.
we want to be able to enjoy our lives and not walk around with these symptoms that then become a part of who we are. And so we ignore them. Like I see people sometimes walking around, let's say they have like back pain, right? So they start to shift to one side, and then all their life they're walking around like this. And they never realize that it's because they have that pain, right? And they just become accustomed to it. So it's the same thing with these symptoms. If any of this is resonating with you and you're like, wow, that really does sound like me. I do have A, or I do have B. Just change one little thing. Take a look at what you're eating. I ask my clients to write down, like just for a week, write down what you're eating and write down how your day went. So if you didn't sleep that day, write it down, and then take a look at what happened that day. What did you eat? Maybe you didn't even eat. Maybe you only drank 1 glass of water, even just water in general. So So if you had words of wisdom for my beautiful mature mamas that are in here, what, and maybe they're experiencing symptoms, but of course they're like, they don't want to say anything. What are 3 things that they can do today?
So some of the things that you can actually do today, and even tomorrow too, starting with today, you have to be a detective. You got to be your own detective. Like I tell the ladies that are in my group all the time, because if you listen to your body, and you'll notice that you'll start healing because you're actually paying attention to what your body is telling you. So no more ignoring the discomfort. So that's one of the things that you can do. The other thing that you can do is work on improving your sleep. When you work on improving your sleep, it gives you so much of an opportunity for your body to heal itself. And that's where a lot of the healing actually takes place. So what could you do tonight? You can start a sleep routine. If you notice that you don't get enough sleep, then maybe go to bed 15 minutes earlier than what you normally do, and then just increase it daily. That could be one way that you can actually start to, add an extra hour, but just do a little bit at a time, work in increments. In the morning, if you wear glasses like I do, once the sunlight hits, so you see the sunrise, if you can let your eyes just hit the daylight just naturally, not with glasses on, but that helps produce the serotonin that you need at night. So it's one thing that you can do during the day. That's one thing that you can do. Well, 2 things that you can do at night. I know I said that there were like 3 things, but in order to
keep it coming. It's okay. I'm learning all this now.
Sleep is so important. Sleep is so important. So outside of being a detective, so you got the routine where you can get to bed a little earlier just by increments and increasing it. You have letting your eyeballs hit the sunlight, not directly, of course, but just get that sun in there. And you can also eat yourself to a good night's sleep. So one of the things that you can do is that you can incorporate into your diet. If you like brown rice, you can have the brown rice, turkey, you can have almonds. So if you happen to have almonds, and, even if it's like a couple of hours before you go to bed, that could help, because there are amino acids that are in these foods that also help convert to serotonin. And the serotonin will turn into melatonin. So, and all roads lead to melatonin. So you want to make sure that those are some things that you can do, but I would say for sure, sleep is definitely one. And what was that, like 3 or 4 things that you can do?
But sleep is important because it's the time that our body needs to recover from everything that it's been through during the day. And that doesn't just include exercise, that includes everything, the mental process that you went through during the day, obviously what you ate during the day, it's everything of the day. So all those components. And I think I've done a few trainings in here about sleep, but even for myself, just know that everything that I've brought to you, even what Laura is saying, these are all things that I've tried and I know to be true. So I go through them first and then I bring it to you because there's a lot of things out there, right? There's a lot of research and there's a lot of how-tos and all these things. So what she's saying about going to sleep a little earlier, I actually have been trying that for the past month or so, and I don't fall asleep right away. So, but my process, my go to sleep process begins a little earlier. So now I don't stay up till like midnight watching Netflix with my husband. At around 11, I'm like, okay, it's time. We stop the TV, we go, and then, so even it's just an hour, but at least the process starts a little earlier. And I do sleep much better. I don't feel like in the morning, like, oh, I could have used like another hour. You know, when you wake up like that, when you're like, oh. Or you wake up, your body naturally just goes bing and you're up. And that's how I know that I've had enough sleep, when my body just goes like that. So, those of you that are on, I see Pam, Holly, Junette, Lisa. Does anybody have any questions or comments on anything that we've discussed? You can unmute and you can say whatever you want. If you were like, yes, thank you, that would be great.
I have pages of notes to pass on to my daughter, who is at a very different stage than I am. So thank you. Yeah, I wish I knew all of this 20 years ago, but is what it is.
Yes. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because my sister is young, right? And she's also going through some things, and it made me think about me. And I'm like, when I was her age, nobody's really spoke about any of this. And I wish that I would have known, because if I would have started back then, eating healthier, doing all these things. I mean, right now, wellness and health is like a cool thing, right? It wasn't cool back then. Nobody really cared about that back then. Now it's like, oh, it's so cool, when you're in your 20s, to go to the yoga studio and do all these things, right? To drink smoothies and wraps and stuff. But when we were, back then, we didn't really know about these things. So I'm glad that you're going to share this with your daughter, even though she's going to look at you like crazy, just so you know. She's going to be like, Mom, I have beautiful skin. The dryness is not going to happen because I'm going to moisturize. But it does happen.
Like even in my group, I tell, I actually have women of all ages in my group, and I'm like, just because my focus is for women in any stage of menopause, you can benefit from this. You'll definitely be winning. There are no losses by actually taking the information that you have now and then starting to apply it.
Yes,
it's going to be great.
So let me see. Oh, somebody else is coming in. She probably wants to say something.
It's Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi, how are you? I missed you, Catherine.
I missed you, Lisa.
I am so glad that I tuned in tonight, because in my mind, I should be post-menopausal, but according to my night sweats and hot flashes, I'm not at all. But I'm taking away a lot of good information. And I too got sad when we started discussing the things that aren't good for the menopause, like the chocolate, because I thought I was, compromising because I'm diabetic. So I like dark chocolate. But tonight I got for that. And the wine. My sleep is good because I have sleep apnea, amongst other things. But the bone density, all of that, it all made sense, and everything is relevant. So I took away some good stuff, and I'm feeling good about it.
Good. I'm glad you joined us. Thank you, Lisa. All right. Anybody else? Ludmila, I see that you joined us. Did you have something to say?
Yes, thank you. This was very informative. And I actually went through some of these things, and I wanted to share something rather, and that I found very interesting that I learned. When I was 46, actually, I had a car accident. So somebody ran red light, and I have a spinal fusion because I was in a wheelchair for 6 months. But in that time, so I literally couldn't walk. So my husband had to bathe me and everything. And so, I'm just focusing on the trauma. And in the 3rd month, he literally whispers, he's like, can I ask you something? And I'm like, why are you whispering? Yeah. He says, you don't have a period. And I'm thinking, oh, no. And I'm like, no, I didn't have a period. So anyway, so fast forward, so it took 6 months. Then I started therapy and I started walking a little bit again. And the occupational therapist comes home and she's like, okay, this is going to be fine. And I started saying to her that Brian he would go to work. And so when he would go to work, he would pick me up, bring me downstairs, and then lay everything out so I could just reach over. And I'm laying there watching every housewife. That's when I started watching the housewives. But about the clock, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, what is this? And then it would just quickly, and it would go away. So it was hot flashes, but I didn't know what was going on. So I go for my pap smear and I was telling my OBGYN and she said, oh yeah, trauma can knock you into menopause. And I had never heard of that. So long story short, my trauma knocked me straight into menopause.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah. And so then I stopped having the period. So I had the hot flashes for a while and then everything stopped. And then a few years after that, I would wake up like my bed would be soaking wet. And I'd literally have to lay towels down because, I'm laying next to my husband, the sheets are wet. And then we have to get up sometimes and clean the sheets. And I one time literally bought a whole new mattress cover because I was sweating so much. But I didn't really know what it was. And because I wasn't going to my OBGYN regularly and I was still recovering, if you will, it took about 2 years before I could really walk again. I went through this whole period. And I didn't know that, when you have accidents, if you will, whatever happens to your body, that can also affect how you go through menopause. And that was what I went through. So I don't have it anymore, but it was just weird. It was really weird.
But you also eat a certain way, right?
Yes, that's true. Yes. And I was commenting on Facebook that when I started eating differently, I stopped having the hot flashes. Mm-hmm. But with the eating, what Catherine is saying is so true. People say, oh, you're so small. I'm not small. I think I'm normal, but I exercise, I eat well. And I now have a time where my body just wakes up. I don't have to have an alarm clock, so I do that. But I also try to do the same thing that you're doing, Catherine. I don't watch TV too late at night and then just fall asleep in front of the TV and drag myself to bed. I make a purpose to I make a point to go to bed and lay down and go to sleep. Right. And drink lots of water. I've dealt with skin discoloration for overstress. They said it's not vitiligo, but just amazing things that women go through that we don't know and nobody tells you why. And you have to just kind of figure it out. So it takes a lot of reading, and on the internet, everything's there. So what do you believe, right? So you have to try a few things. Exactly. But I always encourage people to, give yourself some grace, and it's different for everybody. It was pretty, I'm plant-based 100%, but it was easy for me to do it because I didn't like the trauma, because I also have a history of seizures that started when I was 24, mm-hmm. Only on my period. Every month I would have seizures. And when I had my daughter, when I was pregnant, no seizures. 6 months after that, they started again.
Wow. So definitely related to your menstrual cycle.
Yep. I've never been diagnosed with epilepsy, but to date, I take Dilantin.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed this session because the hormonal cycle is amazing.
It is. And yeah. I don't know, Laura, if you can speak about any of this, but I know that there are, I've had some of the ladies ask me if there are any hormonal supplements that they can take, because I know there's like a few things out there, but do you know of any that maybe you've tried, or of someone that has tried?
Well, I take, I'm also a vegan. I take vitamin D3. So if you are deficient in vitamin D, it affects so many aspects in your body. And it also could make it, you can be one of like the best eaters as far as what you watch. But if you have certain deficiencies, it will cause you to have a level of malabsorption. So you're thinking, here you are eating all these foods, but really your body is not processing because of how your systems in your body are off balance. So if you have a deficiency, or if you're not sure, I would definitely ask my doctor in order to, get tests to see if you have that deficiency. But I take that for myself. I take, quite a bit of herbs as well in order to help supplement, since I don't eat any meat or any fish or anything like that. But I mean, especially, if we're all on the East Coast and it's getting warmer, we'll be able to go outside a lot more. And, the darker your skin, the more vitamin D you're going to need, because it takes much more time in order for it to actually penetrate through our skin. So you want to make sure that you do get, you do get that. So I do take those supplements. I love magnesium. Magnesium does work for so many things. I mean, in addition to sleep, I mean, it helps, with your digestive system. It's just like awesome.
Yes. And I can attest to that too, everyone, because I've been taking like she said, the D3. I've been taking that now for about 2 years, and about 2 months of magnesium. And the magnesium has, to me, I feel a difference, not only with my joints, because it's helped with that, but also with my sleep and my stomach. So I can say that, yes, it does work. I also take fish oil. I've increased that also, which again, for my joints, because you all know that I teach like 1 million classes a week. So I have to do something, because my hips don't lie, Ludmila. They don't lie. They are telling me the truth. But I have not tried any of the hormonal supplements that I know some people in here have tried those. And at least for me, Laura, I don't know about you, but for me, I try the most to research supplements that don't have other things in them. So like a multivitamin, right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, I take multivitamins, but you don't really know what's in the multivitamin for sure. You look on the back and you see like what's there, but do you really know that that's there? You don't. So I'd rather take everything separately. Just makes me feel better that it's the one thing, so that if I do have a reaction or something, I know that it's the one item that I changed or that I added or something like that. So I don't know if that helps anybody out there. But because I know we're talking about menopause, but all of those things, yes, they're all connected. So any other questions? Maybe Holly or Junette, I see her on. Let me just check. I know Marion was on. If you have any other questions or comments, Holly.
I have a very good friend who was my OBGYN, and she said one of the things that you need to be careful about with the artificial estrogen supplements is that if you do have a family history or a personal history of breast cancer, that they will affect your body the same way that normal estrogen does. And you should be avoiding that if you have a history of breast cancer in your family or a personal history with it.
Yes, I'm glad that you brought that up, because my OBGYN said the same thing to me. And I do have in my family a history of breast cancer. So that's another reason that I don't, I try to stay away from anything that's artificial like that, because I have heard that as well. But thank you for sharing that.
That's one of my motivations, as far as just like trying to find food, as medicine. And if there are certain things that I have to take, I'm going to take the minimum amount, but I want to work with what came from the earth.
Yes.
And it's as opposed to what came from a lab.
Yes.
So I do my best to do that. I know there are, positions, at times where that can't happen. And if you need that, then you you do what you have to do. But for me, I just strongly believe that we can work to lessen the dosage.
Mhm. Right, because we
So-
don't want to be dependent on our medications, right? We want to, if we are in positions, like you said, where it's a chronic problem or something more serious and you need medication, a specific medication, then great. But if it's something like, let's say, cholesterol, right? Right away, your doctors want to put you on cholesterol medication, right? When it's at a certain level. But if you can find a natural resource for you to bring your cholesterol down and keep it down, wouldn't you rather do that than have to depend the rest of your life on a medication? I mean,
Exactly.
and like
One of my actually fitness friends, that same thing happened to her. And she said, give me just like 2 months. And she went plant-based and came back and it was fine.
Yes.
So she was trying not to be plant-based, but she was for a little bit, got off of it. But then she was like, my body's just telling me. So I'm going to listen.
Yes.
I was like,
I actually think we're going a little off tangent, but I did try the whole, I was a pescatarian for a while, and then I was just plant-based for a while. And what I realized was that my body rejects certain beans and certain plant-based things. Just because, somebody says that they are plant-based or they are, they're going to be vegan or they're going to be whatever, it's still a process. You still have to figure out what foods will work for your body.
So
and for
because I'm a vegan and I can't have cauliflower or broccoli.
Yes. I
can't do it. My body will not allow me to eat that.
I love lentils. Love lentils, but lentils do not no, my body does not like them, but I eat them. I just know that I'm going to be suffering, but that's it. And
I mean, it just goes back to you being, your own detective and making sure that you do take the time to listen to your body, because then it will give yourself time to heal.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Laura, for agreeing again to do this, because I was like, oh, I need somebody that's gonna like be super great. And you were. And this is a hot topic. This is a topic that we don't talk about too much in public with our friends, and especially, not with our clients in public like this, right? And I'm all about the truth, right? And my clients hearing the truth and knowing what they can do to make themselves better, right? To be better versions of themselves. Well, this is definitely connected to that. So if you took away something from this interview with Laura, just put it down in the comments on Facebook. And even if it was like, oh, I figured out a way to sleep better, or, I learned that I need to lay off of the red wine just a little bit, that kind of thing. Or, if you're interested in finding out a little more, you can join. You're more than welcome to join Laura's group. What's the name of your group again, Laura, and how can they find you?
Real life weight loss for women.
Yes, real life weight loss for women.
Real life weight loss for women. And now I post information all the time on my Facebook profile page about different aspects of menopause too. So you can follow me there, and you can
in our group. She's in my group, so if you look for her, you'll see under today the information for today's call. She made a comment in there, so if you want, you can click on her name and then send her a message if you want to know more about her group. But she does post some really informative things. I've been checking it out. That's how obviously I learned of all of these things. I think your latest one was about the dryness, and I was like, oh, yes, that's a good one. Nobody wants to talk
That
about
was like,
dry
I never seen
vagina,
anyone
okay?
talk about it. I
Nobody
was
wants
like,
to talk about
I'm
that.
just gonna do it. I'm just gonna talk about it.
Can I just say something quickly?
Yes.
I'm not going to hold you, but last year I had a tea party at my house, and one of the ladies came and she said, well, you know, we can play a game. Everybody can have a topic. So you write it down on a piece of paper, we grab it, we don't know who gave the topic.
Uh-huh.
Brought up the topic of vaginal steaming. But
Oh, yes.
nobody knew that I had brought it up, of course, because it was anonymous, right? But I had seen a video by Jada Pinkett Smith, and she had this herbalist, and they had done this whole ritual. And I thought, wow, that'd be something fun to do with people. You know, you sit on this bucket and you beautiful dress. Anyway, do you know, when I brought it up, some of the ladies, they were like, and one of the ladies, one of my guests brought her daughter, and they all thought that she was the one who brought it up, and they're like, see, we can't do this. That's why we don't need these young people here. And I thought to myself, if only they knew.
Well, you know what?
It's
It's important for women to talk about these things, because
Yes.
again, we're not always given the safe spaces
Yes.
to talk about these things. And for some women, it's uncomfortable. It is, but you know what? In order to get comfortable about certain things, we have to be a little uncomfortable. And it's okay. It's just education. It's just stuff for you to process. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. But that's the purpose of this group, is just for you to have resources. But I will share with you that I've done what you're mentioning. So maybe we'll keep that for another topic.
Yes. I did it right here at home. I was like, fine, nobody wants to do it. I'm going to do it. Hurt my knees a little bit because I didn't have my bucket, but I sat there and watched TV and I enjoyed it.
And that's the thing. You can do it. You can create your own ritual right there in your home. And you just need to make sure you have your own special pot. You can't use once you have a pot, that's the pot.
Right. No, it was a brand new thing. But like, I need another one. So, because I didn't know what I was buying. So but I was surprised that the ladies were so adamant about, you know, this is a young person's thing. And I was like, no, I'm talking about it. Because I know y'all have the same issue. You just don't want to say it.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Again, thank you, Laura. Thank you to all of you too. I don't want to keep you up past your bedtime, because I know some of you go to sleep early. But thank you for joining. And if you catch us on the replay, just put some comments down in Facebook and just say, yes, replay, loved it, resonates with me, I agree, whatever. We want to know that a lot of you in here actually took the time to listen to the tips that Laura has shared with you, and to not be sad about the things that you can't have or you shouldn't have, but to try to look for alternatives so that you can really be the best versions of yourselves, so you can enjoy your grandkids, so you cannot annoy your partners, right? with your symptoms and your stuff, and just so that you can be happy too, right? You can be without symptoms and really enjoy your life. So thank you to everyone. Thank you, Laura, again. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
A round of applause. Yes, she did a great job. Thank you so much.
Y'all at the Dance Fit Hub.
Yes. All right. Have a good night, everyone.